Good afternoon, students. And today we will be discussing the point at which we have stopped. From there onwards, we will be discussing with regard to the mass spectrometry. And we are trying to understand some general principles and general protocols to be followed or to be understood by everyone before interpreting the mass spectral data, right? I think I have discussed a couple of general points, and today also we will be discussing a couple of general points. And then let me summarize before we go to the next topic of discussion. I think we have discussed basically there are three major aspects. One is, uh, how to basically identify the molecular ion. Okay, how to identify the molecular ion. That is the first job. Okay, so when you are given any mass spectrum, first you try to identify. For that, usually the extreme right hand side of the mass spectrum, usually you can find a molecular ion peak for most of the compound. There are few exceptions are there that we will discuss when we are discussing about special cases. But that is the right side, at extreme right hand side, you will find a molecular ion peak, and molecular ion peak will be always associated with the isotopic peaks, and especially m plus 1 and m plus 2, and there are few cases where m plus 4, m plus 6 also is possible uh, with regard to the clathrate compounds. Okay, that is one thing. And then you can just apply the rule of the hydrogen deficiency index. Okay, uh, try to see whether, if you are suspecting some peak as your odd electron species, uh, uh, if some species has your molecular ion peak, then if it is a molecular ion peak, then it should have odd number of electrons. So that is the one thumb rule you can apply to find out the whether a particular peak is having odd electrons or even electrons. Then you can apply the rule of hydrogen deficiency index, HDI, and calculate. If you have calculated HDI using the formula which I have given in the previous class, and if you find it is odd, then definitely it will be odd. That there is a chance that it will be your this thing. If it is even, then such a peak cannot be your the molecular ion peak. So if it is odd, then there is a high possibility that will be your molecular ion. Otherwise, that if you find a even electron, and if that peak is correspond to even electron species, then you will not get the HDI as the odd number, right? So that is the thing. Okay, so whole number, or if it is not a whole number, what is the whole number, and if it is not a whole number, then you can interpret that way. Then other thing is that if something you are suspecting as a molecular ion, it will be always is the case that from that particular ion, peak, that there will be a loss of some kind of well-known peaks like neutral species, like water molecules and ammonia, and then also the hydrogen radicals, some kind of radicals, well-known radical like methyl radical, hydroxyl radical, HH thiol radical. This type of things are very common. So if you are suspecting something as a molecular ion, just to see that to confirm further whether are there any known fragments are eliminated from that ion or not. If that is not true, then it may not be your molecular ion peak. Okay. Uh, you can use some kind of rules, some kind of conclusion that you can get. Okay, so once you are identified with the molecular ion peak, then you can try to get the molecular formula by using some of the rules that we have discussed. Like nitrogen rule is the one rule that will give you some kind of idea whether nitrogen is present in that compound or not. If a nitrogen is there, then definitely if a compound is having odd number of nitrogens, then the molecular mass will be definitely it will be odd number. If it is having a even number of nitrogen, then it will give you even number of molecular ion peak. Sometimes, it may not be there also nitrogen. In that case, also you will find even number. So you can just apply whether you see a odd number or even number. Accordingly, you can come to a conclusion like nitrogen is present or not. And this particular rule, as I mentioned, it is only applicable for the organic compound, not for the inorganic compound. Suppose if you apply to NO or NO2, this rule doesn't apply. Only for organic compounds where you find carbon, hydrogen, nitrogen, sulfur, this kind of composition of a molecule. If you have, then you can always apply nitrogen rule and then say something about the nitrogen presence. Okay, and I also given the explanation why this is happening. It so happened that the entire periodic table, if a atom is having the odd nominal mass, that the atomic mass is odd, then definitely it used to form odd number of bonds. We just apply this rule. This is a general rule. For example, hydrogen. Hydrogen has atomic mass is 1 unit, nominal mass is 1 unit. Then it is an odd number. Then it will form one valency, right? It will form coordination with one compound, right? So odd. So it is forming one bond, and then molecular mass, atomic mass is 1. So odd relation is there. Suppose you take the oxygen, and its molecular atomic mass is the 16, and then it forms 2 bonds. So the valence is 2 bonds, right? And then you can just apply, extrapolate this logic, and you can find wherever you find a odd nominal mass, such a atom used to form odd number of bonds. Whereas if you find any atom is having the even nominal mass or atomic mass, then it used to form even number of bonds with the neighbors. Okay, so that is a general kind of observation that we can encounter in the entire periodic table. However, the nitrogen is the exception. Nitrogen doesn't form that way. Okay, so nitrogen nominal mass is basically atomic mass is 14, but it formed 3. So the rule actually arises because of this particular uniqueness of nitrogen. Okay, that is the nitrogen rule. And rule of 13. You can just apply rule of 13. Actually, is helpful to find out the homologous series molecular formula. And of course, you can also apply to different mass fragments and then try to derive some molecular fragment chemical formula. Okay, you can apply to molecular ion, or you can apply to any fragment peaks that you see in the mass spectrum. Okay, just what you have to do, basically you divide with the 13, right? And then you get some number, and then there is a remainder. So n plus r by 13 is the one, right? So n actually is the number of carbon atoms that we can expect in that particular fragment. Okay, it can be a molecular ion or it can be any other fragmented peak. Okay, and r is the remainder. Okay, hydrogens will be in that particular fragment n plus r, where r stands for this one, right? And that is the rule of 13. And the HDI is the another one. You can just always apply and then say something about it. And then you can look at the another point. Once you found there is something that it is your molecular ion peak, then try to find out calculate how many carbon atoms are there. That is one immediate thing that one can do. Because the m plus 1 peak, yesterday I have given an explanation that if you have 2 carbons in the like ethane molecule, that the isotope peak carbon can exist in 13 atomic weight. So therefore it can basically 2 into 1 plus 1, where m plus 1 is the abundance, and that is the amount of that will be the intensity of the m plus 1 peak in the mass spectrum. Okay, so therefore there is a nice approximate correlation between the intensity of the m plus 1 peak and also the number of carbons which are present. Therefore, you can just apply. If once you encounter the molecular ion peak, then you try to calculate whether how many approximate carbon atoms are there in that particular molecule. Okay, that is another one thing. Similarly, you can also just try to look at carefully, is there any m+2 peak is there or not. If there is a m+2, that it means that there are a couple of elements that can present, right? The best example is that look at the intensity, and if there is a 1:3 relation between the m molecular ion peak and the m+2 peak, right, where m+2 peak intensity is 1 unit, and then the other molecular ion peak is 3 units. Okay, 1:3 ratio relation. If you see m+2 peak and then molecular ion peak, then definitely there is a possibility that the chlorine atom will be present, because this has arisen because of the natural abundance of chlorine isotope 35 and 37% in approximately 24.75, whereas the 35 chlorine present in roughly 74.25, something like that. So 1:3 relation we can expect. Suppose if bromine is there, almost 1:1 ratio that we can anticipate. Okay, whenever you see that the molecular ion peak almost, and then m+2 peak, that then immediately you can just conclude, okay, there is a bromine. You can just write down. Okay, those are the very it's a kind of thumb rules. Please remember that. And similarly, m+2 can also be because of the sulfur silicon. Okay, sulfur I think approximately 3 and silicon approximately 5% is present. Okay, so m+2 peak actually will give some information. Similarly, m+1 peak also will give some information. So record all those things and then note down. Okay, some general aspects before interpreting the spectral data. Like at this point, we already discussed, since the molecules are in the gaseous phase, okay, and with a very low concentration, the collisions, usually we expect the unimolecular collisions, right, because of the low concentration and low the environment that under ultra high vacuum, normally the ionization sample, the unimolecular collisions takes place. Then you can just follow either homolytically the cleavage or the heterolytical cleavage, and then try to eliminate the charge species. Okay, so once from the molecular ion peak, then you just identify the left hand side, what are the other intensities. When you find the other intensity, when you find the molecular ion peak on left hand side, what are the other intensities that you see. Usually what happens that because of the collisions, the molecular ion will basically undergo some kind of look at the molecular ion peak, and then left hand side what are the fragments are there. Usually it so happen that from the molecular ion, then there is a possibility of high chances are there that one species will be liberated. That fragment will be, usually it is a even electron species, the other one will be the odd electron species. Okay, so that you please remember always. Okay, and this point already I have covered, that it is not the case that we always get the we don't recognize, the mass spectrometry doesn't recognize the radicals and also neutral species, and then we will only see the positively charged molecular ion and also the positively charged fragmented ions, not any other thing. Okay, that is the other thing, another point that one should remember. And so I think that's all the points. I think I have covered the most of the general points with regard to the mass spectrometry. And but there are few other things are there that we will discuss hereafter. Those are the general aspects about the mass spectrometry, and then there are there are several people. If you recall, in my beginning lecture or the first lecture, I have mentioned a couple of scientists like Stephen Syme and many other people actually worked out on several classes of the compounds, and they have really uh, formulated some kind of guidelines. Okay, so these are not to be called as a rules or hard and trash rules, and they're like a general observations and guidelines which will help us to understand in a better way the mass spectrum and to derive a molecular formula, the structure from the given mass spectral data. Okay, and there are some 10 guidelines are there. Okay, these are all given by them, and we will discuss those things, and later on we will go on to the different classes of molecules like alkanes, and what is the fragmentation, what is the pattern or typical signatures of n-alkane, cycloalkane, alkene, alcohols. Okay, so these things we will take up later on. So let me go on systematically. So there are certain fragmentation guidelines are there. These are general in nature and which will be useful in understanding the uh, mass spectrum and to deduce the molecular structure. Okay, so keep this thing in mind. These are very, very important, and I may ask in the examination that what are the fragmentation general guidelines. So these 10 principles we need to write for that questions, such a type of question. Okay, the first and foremost rule. Okay, the relative height of the mass molecular ion peak is greatest for straight chain molecules and decreases with the branching. Okay, if the branching is increasing, okay, suppose you have a branching on a n element, this thing, and if a branching is increasing, the molecular ion peak basically reduces. Okay, and you have two compounds or two basically organic compounds where there is a branching and where there is no branching. Okay, where there is no branching, that will have a greater intensity. Where there is a branching, such a molecule basically will have a less molecular ion, the intensity of the molecular ion peak will be less. That is the point number one. The second thing is the relative height of the molecular ion peak decreases with the chain length for a homologous series. What do I mean by this? This is essentially, suppose you have a ethane methane, or maybe you just take a propane and hexane, both are n-alkanes, homologous series, right? So according to the second principle, that hexane molecular ion intensity is relatively less compared to the propane. Okay, so that is the point number two. So these 2 points are very closely associated. Even third number also closely associated. Cleavage is favored where there is a alkyl substitution. Okay, that is another thing. Cleavage is favored where there is a substitution. There is a high chance that that will cleave. Suppose if you have a second position, there is a substitution, that is the where it will cleavage. Why? Because that will lead to the formation of the carbocations. Okay, one will leave as a molecular ion. Initially you will have a molecular ion, and from there the fragment, the one will leave as a radical, the other one leave as a carbocation. Okay, so the branching is, where there is a branching, that will be either secondary carbocation or the tertiary carbocation. Therefore, the stability is increasing, right? That is why the cleavage is favored at that point. Okay. And then the stability, the most stable one is the benzylic one. You know that very well. The benzene ring, and then if benzene ring is attached with the CH2, and then something else is there. You just imagine an imaginary molecule, like you have a ethane. For example, you can phenylethane. Okay, just phenylethane. You just imagine where you have a benzene ring and then CH2, CH3 is there. So there is a high chance that the methyl radical will eliminate. Okay, and then remaining benzyl cation will be formed. That will be highly stable. Why? Because that it will form a tropylium cation. that we will see also in the future slides, the same discussion. And we also know very well that the certain carbocations are highly stable. And the pattern and the rule, what is referred to as the Stevenson rule, benzylic carbocation is highly stable than the allylic one, and the allylic one is stable than the tertiary. Tertiary is stable than the secondary. Secondary is stable than the primary. Okay, and the primary one is the primary carbocation is the least stable as compared to any other the carbocation. So accordingly, the cleavage is preferred, and then accordingly, one has to start fragmenting the molecule, dissecting the molecule. Because the reverse thing also is possible, that as I told you in the case of NMR also, you will be given data and then you try to deduce the structure. Suppose if the structure is given, what are the general fragments that is feasible out of this one, that also you are supposed to know, right? So such a case that this fragmentation, what are the general fragmentation you will obtain? For example, that you will be given a molecule and then we will ask you what are the fragments that you would expect. In that case, that reverse, forward and reverse analysis, both are important with regard to the NMR and the mass. So both way you should keep these principles. Double bonds, the fourth point is double bonds, cyclic structures, and especially aromatic rings will be stabilized by the molecular ion, and or basically stabilizes the molecular ion and increase the probability of occurrence, right? If in your compound is having a double bonds, okay, and there is a cyclic structure and aromatic rings are there, in such a situation that there is a high probable chance that the molecular ion will be certainly seen in the mass spectrum. There is no way, because they are highly stable relatively as compared to any other one, because the stability we interpret in terms of the resonance structure that we can draw, and then double bonds, cyclic rings, especially aromatic rings, so they can stabilize the charge among the double bonds, pi bonds, right? So they are more stable, therefore they will stay longer time in the mass spectrometer, therefore the mass spectrometer detector detects it, and then we will see there is a high chance. Double bonds favor the allylic cleavage to give you a resonance stabilized allylic carbocation. So this we already discussed in the previous point also. And then if you have a cyclohexene and the cleavage is favored at the allylic position, right? You can see the mechanism here. It is given nicely that homolytic cleavage is given. So the double bond is here. So the allylic position, this is where you can start breaking homolytic cleavage you can happen. And then this actually can stabilize the charge in between these two. Therefore there is a high chance that because since it is stabilizing, since the charge is stabilizing, therefore this is actually favored, like, right? In the organic chemistry, this is the general principle. The same thing is also applied here, that if something is favoring, if something is leading to the stability, therefore such a reaction will always be favored, right? So therefore the same thing is also is applicable here, that in the mass spectrometer, that if something is fragmenting, then it always favors towards the stability of the fragmented ion. Okay, sometimes it may fragment in a different way, but then such a fragmented ions cannot be seen. Okay, that is one thing. And the sixth point is that for saturated rings, the side chains tend to cleave first, okay, and leaving the positively charged ring. Okay, so the cyclohexane is there, some substituted alkyl substituted cyclohexane or something is there. So the side chain will leave as a radical, leaving the cyclic ring as a positively charged one. Okay, that is another important point one should remember. Then unsaturated rings can also undergo retro Diels-Alder reaction to eliminate neutral alkenes. Okay, I think I need not to explain what do you mean by the retro Diels-Alder reaction. So the okay, diene and dienophile formation is the Diels-Alder reaction. Okay, So that is something that is also possible in the case of fragmentation in the mass spectrometer. And then this is the bond, the homolytic cleavage. The bond cleavage is shown here, and they form this type of ene and dienophile, this type of thing. Okay, aromatic compounds tend to cleave to give the benzylic cations. So this is something that I already pointed out at the beginning. If we have a benzene ring, a substituted benzene ring, and then where it is connected with the CH2 and then something R, there is a highly chance that this will form a benzylic cation, this type of thing. It can undergo this type of the resonance structure, which ultimately gives you the what is called as a tropylium cation, which is highly stable aromatic thing because of the aromaticity, right? So that is the most favorable fragmentation pattern with regard to the substituted alkanes on benzenes. Okay, uh, substituted benzenes. Then the CC bond next to the heteroatoms often break to leave the positive charge on the carbon with the heteroatom. Okay, the CC bond next to the heteroatom. For example, if you have this type of ether, right? This is the bond. This is where the heteroatom is connected to the carbon. So what I'm talking about is this one is the CC bond next, adjacent to the heteroatom bond, CO bond, or this bond. Okay, so this is the favored one. This is one type of fragmentation, whereas the other type of fragmentation is also possible. This also possible. Okay, in that case, this will form slightly different one. Okay, so this is the CC bond to the next to the heteroatoms are often break and leaving the positively charge on the carbon atom with the heteroatom. Okay, so this is what the positive charge will be on the heteroatom itself, leaving the other one as a radical. That is very, very important. Then the 10th point is that the cleavage is often favored if it can expel small stable molecules like a water, right? And then also the CO, NH3, H2S. These are the small molecules, right? So these are the most favored cleavage. Okay, in a molecule, suppose if you have a alcohol, then there is a high chance that water can be eliminated, right? And if you have some kind of amines, then ammonia can, there is a possibility. And if you have a thiols, then the H2S can liberate. Similarly, if you have aldehydes and ketone, there is a probability that it can leave the CO, carbonyl small functional group can be eliminated, or aldehyde can be eliminated. So this type of small neutral species and uh, functional group can eliminate because of the fragmentation process. Okay, in the mass spectrometer. In addition to bond fragmentation, various type of intramolecular rearrangement can also take place to give some unexpected ions. That is also there. Okay, so the best example is the McLafferty rearrangement, where if you have a alpha beta gamma position, there is something hydrogen. This is alpha beta, I think. How do I say alpha beta gamma? Yeah, so leaving the carbonyl thing, this is alpha. Okay, alpha carbon, and beta gamma. If you have a gamma hydrogen, that means hydrogen on the gamma carbon, then it can undergo this type of rearrangement, and it will form very stable one, and it will leave this allyl neutral species allene, and then this will form a radical cation like this. This fragment is very, very stable, and then it will be in fact seen as a base peak. That means its intensity relatively high, and then many of this fragment will be seen. So therefore, the rest of the fragmented ion intensity are calibrated with respect to this particular type of McLafferty rearranged product. Okay, so this is very common rearrangement that we encounter in many of the uh, organic compounds. Okay, only criteria is that you should have some type of gamma hydrogens, and then and then initially you will have a molecular ion peak, this type of molecular ion peak, and simply you can just move the bonds here and there, and there is a possibility that this neutral species will be cleaved from leaving the rest of the one as the radical cation. So this is very common fragment rearrangement that we will see. Another thing is that beyond all these things, as I told you, these are some kind of general observations based on a few or a couple of compounds or maybe large number of compounds. But always we do encounter many unwanted peaks or many peaks also in the EI mass spectrum. This is very common. But always we need not to worry about it, because in the mass spectrum, uh, anything that is less than the 10% of the relative intensity, that we need not to worry. But there are some uh, unwanted peaks which cannot be explained by any of these rules or maybe general patterns of so and so category like alkane alkane. So we cannot explain such a fragmented peak. So but we do see them. So this is what I was telling, that if it is a rule, that means that will definitely it will be obeyed for irrespective of the nature of the compound. That is why that these are derived, these points are derived based on a large number of study. Okay, sometimes we do encounter out of the discussion, and for example, this is a one thing, right? This type of molecule will form this type of ethyl carbocation. How do you basically explain? None of the rule which I have discussed, it cannot explain the formation of this particular thing. How do you explain? Definitely we cannot explain. But something beyond our imagination always happening in the mass spectrometry. And a few other things that, if you encounter this type of CC bond, okay, so they will undergo and they will form this type of one uh, radical carbon radical, and also the carbocation both can form. And the cleavage of C hetero bond, this is most favored. Okay, and then cleavage of C hetero atom, alpha cleavage of C hetero atom is another type of thing. Okay, and then retro deal solder we have just discussed already. Okay, and the elimination of hydrogen on the heteroatom is very common. For example, if you have a vicinal hydrogen, and in the molecule you have a heteroatom, maybe oxygen, sulfur, nitrogen, like this, and the vicinal carbon you have a hydrogen, then this hydrogen will be abstracted by the heteroatom and it will leave as a HZ. Okay, HZ, that hydrogen sulfide or the HN. Okay, this type of thing, it will be cleaved from the molecular ion. That is another thing. And the retrodyl solder we already discussed. If you have a cyclic compound with a double bond, they will allelic position that it will undergo. That is one thing. And then deal solder thing, the rearrangement basically can take place and it will form a diene and dienophile. So these are the things. Okay, I think I have covered most of the things, and then there is one important thing before we go to the section is this one. When you are fragmenting, this is very important principle. When you are fragmenting, suppose I will give you a molecule and then I will ask you to draw the possible fragments. Okay, so this is a very quite natural way of asking questions with regard to the spectroscopy. So the molecule will be given, and then the fragmented, what are the expected fragments that you can that one can encounter if you record a molecular mass spectrum or so on. So then in that case, that you should know some rules, and you cannot simply fragment in the way whatever you like it, because okay, if you have a hexane is there, you just take out the hexane, methyl, and the next one is the ethyl, butyl, propyl. Like that, you cannot simply do it. Okay, I'm just giving an example. There are certain rules that always we have to follow, and then you have to study the general patterns of so and so. First, you have to classify what type of molecule it is, okay, and then accordingly you apply those patterns. And also some general rules are there. This is one of the general rule and very, very important rule, okay. And then when you're writing the fragmentation pattern, then there is a rule called even electron rule. Okay, even electron rule, odd electron rule is there. Odd even, or even odd electron rule is there. And this actually came from the thermodynamics. Okay, and even electron ions cannot cleave to pair of odd electron fragments. And a little more clearly, let us look at that the even electron rule is more commonly known as the even electron rule, states that the odd electron cations, what are those? I already given the clue previously. The molecular ion is the odd electron species, right? The molecular ion is formed because of the one electron, knocked out by the electron beam. Therefore, it is said to be always odd electron species. Okay, the odd electron species will give, or will from the odd electron space, it can cleave like a one radical and one even electron species. On the other hand, it can also undergo, again, it can leave one neutral fragment, leaving the remaining thing as the odd electron species. Okay, so very, very important and very tricky also. So one odd electron species molecular ion peak, okay, it can undergo to give a radical, and it can and then plus and even electron species. On the other hand, it can also undergo the second possibility is this, that it can give a odd electron species, can give the odd electron species plus a neutral one. Okay. On the other hand, the even electron, okay, even electron species can give a neutral molecule and a even electron species, but a even electron cannot give you a odd electron species. Okay, this is something very, very interesting point, that the even electron species, if you encounter, it will always give a even electron species. It will never ever give you a odd electron species. This is very useful while writing the fragmentation pattern. Okay, when you are writing, and you have to see what type of thing that it is formed, whether it is the odd electron space fragment or the even electron species, and then these rules you have to apply. And you cannot write the way, successive losses. So basically what I'm trying to do is that if you have an odd electron species, then it cannot, if you have a odd electron species, two successive odd electron species cleavage is not possible. That is what I am trying to say. So according to the even electrons rule, it states that odd electron cations may eliminate either a radical or even electron neutral species, but even electron ions, okay, will not usually lose a radical, okay, to form the odd electron cation. So this is the point I'm saying. This is not allowed. This is allowed. A even electron species will eliminate another even electron species plus a neutral species, but not a odd electron at all. Okay, this is quite rare. And the best example is that suppose if you have a this type of molecule, there is a small problem with regard to the writing or representation of the molecular ion. It is supposed to be on the top of this one heteroatom. Okay, so this is basically a ethanol molecule, and molecular ion, please note down, the ethanol molecular ion is the odd electron species. So this will undergo definitely either one neutral species and radical, but it will not give two radical. That is the point I'm trying to say. You cannot write this is one radical and this is one radical. Okay, it never do that. It lose one neutral species and one radical. On the other hand, it can lose one even electron species plus one radical. Okay, those are the two possibilities with regard to that. Similarly, with regard to the acetone, Again, the C double bond O acetone. This is CH3CO CH3. On the, since according to the representation, when you are representing the molecular cation, it should be the positively charged, and then radical notation should be kept on the double bonds and heteroatom. So since we have a heteroatom, we should keep that. And this is the molecular ion, which is an odd electron species, and this actually will undergo this type of ethyl thing, and also this type of the other one. Okay, so keep these things in mind. Okay, and another very important points are the with regard to the mass spectrum, that is a general observation. We will not encounter a species which molecular ion correspond to 3 units or 14 units, 19 units, and 25 units. Okay, these are quite rare. Okay, a molecule cleaving another small fragmented ions, fragmented species, which whose molecular weight is, whose fragment weight is actually 3, 14, 19, and 25. Okay, except when you talk about 19, there is an exception. That is a fluorine. We know that its molecular atomic weight is 19. Except that one, and if you are sure that there is no fluorine, then definitely that 19. What type of species is it is? Definitely, we cannot interpret 19 laws to any of the species in the organic chemistry. Okay, similarly, 3. 1, I can say, if there is a loss of 1 unit, then definitely atomic weight of hydrogen is 1. Therefore, there is a high possibility it can lose. Okay, what about 14? 14, is there anything else? There is nothing. Except, okay, there is nothing, because nitrogen is the 14. On the other hand, CH2 is the 14. Nitrogen is 14 and CH2 is nothing. Is also 14. Wait, okay, CH2 can never just go like CH2. Okay, that is not possible. And similarly, the nitrogen cannot simply leave as such. At least 17 is possible. Sorry, 15 is possible, because nitrogen can take one or two hydrogens along with that, or sometimes three also. Accordingly, that you can see that. But 14 is not possible. Similarly, 25 m minus 25 peak we cannot see. Again, the same reason, that there is no fragment that actually accounts the 25 loss. So therefore, these are some of the general ideas that, when you are trying to write down the fragmentation pattern, these will be useful. And then that's all. I think with that, we will simply go to the discussion of the general fragmentation patterns of groups or categories, right? So here we will discuss very elaborately what are the alkenes, what are the alkene general fragmentation pattern. Okay, alkene pattern, what it is. Similarly, the ketones, aldehydes, esters, carboxylic acids, everything we will discuss hereafter, because these are the important things that are really necessary. Like previously, I mentioned with regard to the NMR that you need to always remember the chemical shift values, proton chemical shift values, and carbon 13 chemical shift value. Therefore, you can actually easily interpret the data. And here, this fragmentation pattern, you have to remember all the fragmentation general patterns of variety of compounds, because if you don't know some of the general thing, that you will fail actually. And everybody thinks that spectroscopy is easy when you are listening, but then when you are actually working out the problems, and I have seen even the good students, uh, even the so-called good student who secure more marks also many times fail to answer. But I have seen very average students or below average students who are good in solving the problems and who are good in understanding the logics. I have seen they are securing good marks in the problems of with regard to the mass spectroscopy, the NMR or mass spectrometry. So you are good or bad in terms of marks in the previous semester or this semester, it doesn't matter. Only thing is when you are solving the problem with regard to the mass spectrometry, either it is a semester and end semester examination or in the CSR point of view, that it is always, how many problems you solved, how many problems independently you can solve. That is actually matters. Okay, you can solve only if you know little basics. These basics are important. Once you know the basic, then you can do it. Okay, it's not that even if you try to mug up also, these things will not actually stay longer in your mind. They will simply evaporate. Okay, you cannot keep the story which is not really interesting to you, right? So you have to have little bit of interest and little bit of logical thinking and little bit of basic, if you are thoroughly understanding these principles, then definitely you can score more marks. So let us go on. You just take it, you have an alkane, and this analkane, that this is the most general way of fragmentation. The most general way of fragmentation that it will lose one ethyl radical and the carbocation, primary carbocation. So this is the way of representation fragmentation. So initially the molecular cations, since it is alpha, since all are basically the substituted compound, therefore it is the best way. You cannot basically show exactly where your positive charge is. But of course, if there is a heteroatom and if there is a double bond, then definitely these things have to be shown precisely on the double bonds and heteroatom. But in this case, you can't show. Okay, the cleavage with regard to this molecular ion, the cleavage can happen either here or here, anywhere it is possible. So accordingly, one will leave as a radical, the other one will be taking the positive charge. Okay, so the positively charged one will be seen in the spectrometer, and the radicals and neutral species are inferred based on the positively detected positively charged fragments. So the alkane general observations are these. Okay, uh, stability of the carbocations one has to apply when you are fragmenting and interpreting the data. Stability of the carbocations you should always remember. Okay, where to fragment, where to cleave. Okay, that is the question. And when you are fragmenting or cleaving the bonds, you have to cleave, keep in mind that the stability of the fragments, if the stability is more with regard to some one type of fragmentation or cleavage, then that is more favored than the other type of cleavage. So that you keep in mind. This is the one thumb rule that you should remember with regard to, of course, not only to the alkanes, to any of the other type of molecules. So that is one thing. Single bond cleavage is mostly preferred, and then Stevenson rule that you can apply always and then do it. The other one is that when you have this type of these substituted alkanes, okay, when you have the substituted alkanes, the small fragment will always leave as a radical rather than a charged one. This is the point. With regard to the substitution, okay, the small one will take the radical with it and then leaving the remaining thing as a positively charged. Okay, this is the case. Okay, of course, this is another way of representing the Stevenson rule. With regard to this type of one molecular ion, then it will be preferred this way of cleavage. So methyl will leave with the radical. Methyl radical will leave, leaving this cation. Then the other type of cleavage is that the charge, this one can leave as a radical, keep leaving the methyl with a positively charge. So you cannot detect in the mass spectrum this one. You cannot detect this. You cannot detect this CH3 in the mass spectrum. You can infer. The other cleavage is possible, and you can only infer that what is the mass of this one. From there is a loss of 15 will be there. Okay, this is the way of representation, that m minus 15. M stands for the molecular ion. Okay, from molecular ion there is a loss of 15. Loss of 15 means there is a methyl radical. Okay, that is something that one should remember. And in the case of N-alkanes, okay, alkanes also we have many type of alkanes are there, N-alkanes. So the ions what we see are basically of this type, or the peaks or fragmented peaks will have the general formula, will obey the general formula of CnH2n plus 1. CnH2n plus 1, which actually means that you will see peaks for methyl, ethyl, and then propyl, and so on, butyl. Okay, uh, these are the general type of cluster of peaks that we can leave. And the fragment what are leaving is basically radicals. The radicals are basically cleaved from the molecular N-alkanes, then and then appropriate positively charged ions will be seen in the spectrum. Okay, when you talk about the very longer chain alkanes, when you talk about longer chain N-alkanes, then loss of 43 peak and loss of 57 peaks are most common one, are very common. 43 actually refers to the this propyl cation, C3H7. C3H7 plus is the species positively charged, is the cation is the species responsible for this. And then of course the 57 means basically uh, uh, 57 is basically the butyl carbocation. Okay, butyl carbocation 57. So you can just always remember these symptoms. Okay, and branched one, we have already discussed with regard to the branching. As I told you that if there is a possibility of forming a secondary or tertiary carbocations, that is the cleavage is more preferred fragment cleavage rather than any type of cleavage. So if something is uh, leading to the formation of the alpha carbocation, no, sorry, primary carbocation, such a one is relatively less favored as compared to the tertiary and secondary carbocation type of cleavage. So keep this in mind. And then M plus peaks becomes weak and non-existent as the size and branching of the molecule increase. So this is also covered in the previous when we are when we were discussing the fragmentation general guidelines. So when you have a branching, and if the branching is keep on increasing, that there is unlikely that we may not see even the molecular ion. Okay, so there are many molecules of that kinds are there. Okay, so this is just to give you a flavor that N-haptene, the molecular ion, molecular spectrum, mass spectrum is shown here, and its molecular weight is 100. From the 100, there are two types of fragmentations are possible. Of course, other types of fragmentation also possible, but generally, what we see is that the when you see the N-alkanes, the 43 will be seen somewhat more stable, and then that will be seen as a base peak, right? Leaving that propyl carbocation is somewhat stabler as compared to the higher carbocation like the butyl carbocation. Therefore, that will be the base peak, and rest of the peaks also you can see accordingly. Okay, so this correspond to 57 correspond to the butyl one. So that you can encounter if there is a fragmentation of N-heptane in this bond. Okay, sir, why you are doing only this? Okay, these are also possible that one methyl can lose. So accordingly, that we will see different fragments. Okay, so it's not that only it will break here, even it will also break here. So these are the different type of fragmentation. Accordingly, those peaks can be seen in the mass spectrum. But the most preferred way of cleaving, or the most intense peaks, can be explained in terms of this type of cleavage. Okay. And the branched alkanes, as I told you, that where there is alpha to the branching, this is where the branching is there, then this is where it will cleave. And because you cannot cleave this molecule just here, because where there is a cleavage, I can cleave here, I can cleave here. I'm just saying the possibility. This is one cleavage, and I can also cleave here. These are the 4 different cleavages that are that we can anticipate with regard to this molecule. There are 4 different ways in which this molecule can fragment. Okay, and then this one, or any, this cleavage or this cleavage or this cleavage, all are identical. So, but then you can see here why this is favored, because that if something is cleaving here and this will leave as a radical, this fragment will leave, this entire thing will leave as a radical, okay, leaving the other one with a positively charged one. We know that the tertiary carbocation is more stable than the primary and secondary. Therefore, this cleavage is most favored than cleavage here or cleavage here or cleavage here. Okay, so that is the way it is. And cyclohexanes, molecular ions, usually we will see a strong molecular ions, and cleavage of ring is still gives the same value. Okay, sometimes the ring will be cleaved, but then still we do see the molecular ion for the cyclic alkanes. Cyclohexane, you just take it. Then cyclohexane, even if it is cleaving, but still you do see a nice molecular ion peak in the mass spectrum. The other one, the 2 bond cleavage to form the ethene, is common loss. Ethene, that CH2, ethene, is a very common way of fragmentation with regard to the cyclohexanes. Okay, so just remember that. So this will leave, a neutral species will be eliminated from the cyclohexane, and then it will leave this type of one. Okay, and then suppose if cyclohexane has a fragmentation, the fragmented one will leave as a radical. The fragment will leave as a radical. For example, that you have methyl or ethyl cyclohexane, that ethyl or methyl will leave as a radical. So that is the another general feature of a cyclo alkanes. And this is the example of a cyclohexane. And you know that the cyclohexane, you can form this type of retrodiels order type of thing. Then accordingly, the peaks can be observed. Retrodiels order thing, you can just remember that. Then the this type of alpha, this type of homolytic cleavage is possible, and then accordingly we will get the one diene and then dienophile. Okay, I think what is the time now? Yeah, so I think with this I will stop here for today, and in the next class we will continue in discussing the alkenes. Okay, and yeah, alkenes we will see next class onwards. I think that I have one more example here before we are closing. I think we can see this type of branched cyclohexane. Uh, So this is a branched cyclohexane, that there is a isopropyl group here, methyl group here on the cyclohexane, and then the cleavage is the most preferred one. Okay, this is the most preferred one. By cleaving this one, you can actually write down which one is the base peak, which one is the other one. Okay, and this is another type of cleavage that is possible. And now the remaining cyclohexane can leave one ethene molecule, CH2 neutral species, and then other thing, right? So you can see the ions accordingly. And there is a value for 57. The 57 is for what? 57 is actually it is basically this type of one. Okay, I think this type of one. You can see there are how many? There are 4 carbons, 4 12s are 48, right? 48 plus how many? How many hydrogens? So 2, 2, 2. right? There are eight or nine hydrogens are there. I think 8 or 9 are there. So 48 plus 8, 56. Yeah. So the 56 actually, sorry, it is 56. 56 actually correspond to this type of species. Okay, this double bond or single bond, this type of double bond, and this type of double bond. This is the 56 value. 56 value is because of that. Okay, so the four carbons are there, and then 48 plus hydrogens. Okay, when you calculate, it is 56. So the alkenes onwards, maybe we can discuss in the next class onwards. Alkenes, and then we have what else? Alkynes and hydrocarbons, aromatic hydrocarbons, and there are many other things. Okay, alcohols, everything is there. We will discuss in the next class. If you have any questions, maybe you can ask.
Sir, can you once again tell me how we can predict which one is even and which one is odd? That's one I got confused.
Which one is even, which one is odd? The nitrogen rule.
Yes.
See, you just take a nitromethane. Okay, what is the molecular weight of nitromethane? 15 comes from the methyl. Okay, 15 plus you have a 14 from nitrogen. How much? 15 plus 14? 29, right?
Yes.
29 plus 32. 32 actually one oxygen 16, so two oxygens are there. Therefore, you have 32. So 32 plus 29, it is 61. Am I clear?
Yes.
So 61 is a odd number or even number? It is a odd.
Odd number.
So how many nitrogens are there? 1. So 1 is odd number, and then the molecular weight is also odd. So odd. Okay, that means when you are trying to identify or locate the exact what is exactly the molecular ion peak, while interpreting the mass spectral data, it is the first and foremost thing is that you have to identify the molecular uh, ion peak. That is the foremost thing that one should do. How to identify? To identify, this is a kind of nitrogen rule will help you to identify the molecular ion. Of course, it will not give a complete picture, but it's a kind of a small clue it gives. Suppose if nitrogen is there, that if you are sure that you have done a reaction nitrogen, and then if nitration is happened, definitely that you will get, since you have done only nitration at one position, you will get odd molecular mass. And if you don't see a mass at the odd molecular mass, m by z value, then definitely you will infer that nitration did not take place, right? So that is the way it is to understand the mass spectrum. Suppose if a compound, you know that there are two nitrogens are there. Okay, definitely if you see a peak at odd position, definitely it can't be your nitrogen. It can't be your molecular ion peak. Understand? And if you are sure there is a one nitrogen, and then definitely the molecular weight of that molecular ion peak will be definitely odd number. You will see at odd number. And if you are sure that your molecule has even number of nitrogens, then definitely you will see a peak at even m by z value. So that is the rule it is. So it gives a kind of general understanding to know whether some nitrogen is there or not.
Okay, sir.
Okay. You have any doubt? Okay, if you have any doubts, you can always call me or text me. I can discuss. For today, I am just closing it, then we will meet on Friday.